Women's Month is coming to an end or drawing to a close, we reflect on issues that they are facing in South Africa. Gender-based violence, of course, is on that list, as we all do know. We also touch, of course, on the high unemployment rate and how it's affecting women. We're going to be joined by a panel of phenomenal women to discuss some of these issues. I've got Lebo Ramafoko in Cape Town and Malerato Mosiane in Johannesburg, and I'm hoping to be joined by Samke, Mhlongo, all the way from the United States. But for now, I've got Malerato and Lebo. Lebo, good afternoon. If I may start with you. I mean, sadly, yet again, in this month of August, we've witnessed the brutal killing, murder of a young woman, in this case, Nostelo, at the University of Fort Hare. And I was just wondering, what else do we need to do? I mean, what should we do as a society to protect our women and change the behavior of men? I mean, men, we are the ones who are responsible for some of these heinous crimes.
Thank you for having me, Dan. I think it would have been a fallacy to think that just because we have dubbed a month Women's Month, that the violence that women live under will take a break. It doesn't. The reality that your life could be in danger lives with women in their waking moments, 365 days in a year. I think what we must also consider, particularly when you look at the rape statistics, when you look at the crime statistics that have come out, is that we live in a very violent society, and that violence against women, rape, femicide, are not crimes that are perpetrated by strangers. They are perpetrated by people we know, and we have seen in South Africa from time to time that they are perpetrated across the board. This is not done by strangers. People in leadership, our brothers, our fathers, our family members are perpetrating this. And it does not mean that when a man is a good husband or a good leader or nice to other women, they are not perpetrators or potential perpetrators of violence. And it stems on a number of issues. From a prevention point of view, I think we need to empower and work with communities to report cases of gender-based violence that are happening in their homes. We need to make sure that violence against women is not a private affair, because men would basically talk about it being a private affair. There is a perception that what happens in a relationship affects only those people that are in that relationship. We also must make it easier for women to report. We must also change the cultural, social, religious norms that exist that objectifies women and creates a particular hierarchy. And let us just say, when we talk about gender-based violence, men are also afraid of other men. So when you look at violence that men suffer, it is mainly perpetrated by other men. So the idea that we have a masculinity that is historic, that is basically was perpetuated by patriarchy, but also our capitalist and how men are perceived in society and how women are punished in a society that has a very a tragic past. I also know of organizations that are also dealing with men and their pain. And I think while women don't go out there and kill in numbers because they were equally in pain, we must recognize that our socialization of men also exacerbates the issue of a masculinity that says you cannot speak about your own weakness and your own pain. You are also expected to perform this hyper-masculinity. And that is why even the LGBTIQ community, including gay men, are afraid of heterosexual men.
Yeah, it just, from your answer there, it just says there's a lot of work that we need to do. I'm going to bring you in, Malerato, from the Stats SA side, because one of the factors when we talk about GBV that keeps on coming up, for example, is the fact of economic dependence, financial dependence. And the crime stats that Lebo was referring to there don't lie. The numbers don't lie. I mean, the situation, just looking at the crime stats, how women are affected broadly in our country, the numbers are bad.
Yes, we see a very high crime rate, even from the statistics that we provide. But from my side, I was going to talk to the issues of women participating in the labor market. They still also face a lot of challenges. We see a lot of men participating more in the labor market more than women. Even when you look at the unemployment rate, the unemployment figures that we published yesterday, we still see the rate being very high among women than among men. When we look at these figures, we have about 36.8% of unemployment among women compared to 32.4% among men.
Yeah, so, and that's a contributing factor. Lebo, I mean, if women are economically dependent, so to speak, and you see the high unemployment rate is among women, and we know that in South Africa, many households are women-headed, it becomes a challenge because it speaks to that balance of forces or that imbalance in terms of socio-economic dependence.
Yes, it is. But I like what you said about many households in the community being headed by women. So what we've also allowed in South Africa, just to give you a very small example, is that while we have the Maintenance Act, by and large, the majority of men in South Africa can choose to break the law by not supporting their children, even when they are the ones that are mostly employed. We've got many men who will have 4 firstborns, give birth to children with different mothers, only marry the 5th woman, and then maintain those children, but forget about the other 4. It is in the law that children must be maintained by their families. So what you also see in our society, what we are talking about is not only women not being employed, it's also women facing, by virtue of men withholding money and using it as a lever of control in supporting their children, making women unable to take on jobs. If, for an example, you are having children and you are the head of the household and you've got an opportunity to work, when you are a woman, unlike when you are a man, the opportunity to take up that work must also take into consideration the kind of child care that is required. So not only are you burdened to spend the little money that you have if you are employed on the children that the men can choose to abandon, you are also impacted on your ability to find a job by the fact that we've got a law in South Africa. And I think the reason why this law, maintenance law, is not implemented, firstly, it's because it affects women. Many men are using this as punishment. There's also economic violence to punish women that they are no longer in relationship with, either women that they have divorced or women that they are no longer in relationship with. So it becomes money. Not only does it become what draws women into relationships with men, but it is also what is used when it is withdrawn as maintenance into what punishes the women who are left with the children. And so this unemployment is not only because the employer does not want to employ women or women are not getting jobs. It's also what is the condition, the social condition, largely, and it stems from patriarchy. Housework, child rearing is left for women, even in cases where there is unemployment. And this is a study that we did when I was still in my previous employment, where we looked at where women spend most of their time. Even when women and men are unemployed, largely care work, housework rests on the shoulders of women, and disproportionately so.
And Lebo,
So
Lebo, sorry, just before you got, there's much more to say there. And I want to bring in Malerato. I know you're doing with numbers, Malerato, and stats, but also just the other day, my colleague here on eNCA, Thulasiso Simelane, was speaking about the legal fraternity. Even in the legal fraternity where you're dealing with highly qualified professionals, certain cases are deemed to be cases that women can handle. And I'm wondering, from the labor stats, Malerato, when you look at women in the workplace, those who do end up getting the work, women also there are facing challenges in terms of the roles that are given to them, which doesn't assist in really leveling the playing fields, in really bringing about inclusivity and equity.
Yes, we see women not really getting into the managerial positions. You would find that 60 to 70% of those who are employed, who are in managerial positions, are mainly men, and only about a third are women. And when women are employed, they tend to be in elementary occupations and domestic work as well, where you don't see men featuring there. And also, if you look at the median earnings, you find that men earn more than women, even if they are doing the same occupations.
Yeah, so the imbalance is everywhere. Malerato, stay connected. Lebo, stay connected. We'll continue our discussion here shortly on the Midday View. As August is ending towards a close. Of course, it is Women's Month in August, and then the pandemic of gender-based violence still very much top of mind. But there are other challenges that South African women still face today.